All right, what is up, everybody? In today's video, we have the Pixel 6 and Pixel 6 Pro that I'm filming on right now. And in this video, we're gonna go through all the video features of this new device and see if the new and improved Pixel 6 holds up in terms of its video quality. All right, let's do it. All know that Pixel cameras, when it comes to photography, are amazing. Pixel takes amazing photos. But what about video? The age-old question for Pixel is, what about video? Have they forgotten about video? Do they not like us filmmakers? I feel targeted. The video just hasn't been as good as the photos that the camera takes. So we just got our hands on the devices. We're gonna do an array of some vlog footage, some kind of everyday shooting, as well as try our hand at a little bit of cinematic footage to see how the video looks. Also, fun fact, if you use Pixel 6 with our cases, they are MagSafe compatible. All right, here's my first video clip with this device. And overall, it looks great. So right now, I'm gonna run through the specs, the features that I think are awesome for video, as well as a few that I think are left out. And then we are gonna go shoot with these two new beautiful devices. First thing to note is the new sensor. It's 1/1 3 inches big, which will give you a lot more natural depth of field. This means increased bokeh, which a lot of times on phones is the thing you are up against. You are always battling against that beautiful bokeh that you see in Hollywood or commercial videos. So we love that. On the 1x wide lens, you are gonna get a nicer image as well as more depth of field. Okay, so now for frame rates. For the rear camera, you're gonna get 4K up to 60 frames per second, as well as 1080 up to 60 frames per second, as well as the standard slow-mo of the previous devices. And keep in mind, this is on both the Pixel 6 and 6 Pro. On the front-facing camera, you're gonna get 1080/30 on the 6, and on the 6 Pro, you are gonna get up to 4K 30. The front camera also has a wider lens, which is gonna be great for vlogging, which we will be using later. You can basically toggle between a 1.4x and a 1x. Now here is a quick complaint. There is no 24 frames per second. And to a filmmaker, that hits here. That hits to the heart, that hits to the soul. It cuts me deep. And at first, I thought this was a really big deal. And if I were to go shoot a film on this phone, I would think it's a big deal. But I think to the average user, it's not really that important. For a long time, the iPhone through Apple also did not have 24 frames per second in the native app. So you could say that Pixel is on that same roadmap and will hopefully incorporate it soon. For the everyday shooter, I don't think this is something you'll miss. I think a lot of times most people aren't toggling between frame rates anyways, or can't really tell the difference. So the 4K 30 is totally fine. Just as a filmmaker, I wish we had 24 frames per second. Okay, now to the lenses. You get a 0.7x, 1x, 2x, and a 4x on the 6 Pro. The only difference between the 6 and the 6 Pro is that on the 6, you do not have that 4x optical zoom in video. You just get the 2x. In terms of the menu system to change between these lenses, it's very simple and standard to what we've seen in the past. I'm super hyped on the 4x lens because that's just something super unique that this phone offers, especially if it looks good. The 4x lens is just gonna get you a ton closer if you're shooting your kid playing soccer or shooting someone surfing from the beach. The 4x lens is gonna be awesome. One thing to note about the 4x lens is you cannot shoot 4K 60. That is only limited to the other lenses. Now let's get into the stabilization settings. Shooting on phones, the luxury is that they're so small they can fit in your pocket. And if you don't wanna bring a gimbal places, then having good stabilization is important. You have standard, locked, active, and cinematic pan. What's nice about these is they actually give you a little description of what each do. For 95% of shooting, I'm gonna use the standard mode. I would also probably use active. Locked is for when you kind of wanna mimic a tripod, and cinematic pan is gonna slow down your footage as you do exactly what it says, a slow cinematic pan. Now keep in mind, you're not gonna get all frame rates with these. Some of these are gonna change quality. They're gonna look a little different. So I think the safest bet is just to stay in standard and let your stable arms do some of the work. But so far, in my experience, the standard setting has been awesome. All right, now let's actually go out and shoot. Let's grab these phones, go hop on the Murph bike and go mob around and get some footage. Let's hit it. So with this new bigger sensor in the Pixel 6, I'm curious to do some depth of field tests, because with a bigger sensor, you're gonna get more depth of field. And like I was saying earlier, on a phone, it's hard to get good depth of field, good bokeh on a phone. So let's do that test right now. Okay, I'm really seeing some good bokeh on the 1X lens. I mean, that is, you can clearly see these palm trees are out of focus. Tap the palm trees, now the helmet's out of focus. Back to helmet. It's a nice smooth roll off too, honestly. All right, so this is looking really nice. Let me try to back focus. Yeah, there. And then back to front focus. Wow. Hold that focus, there we go. All right, I'm gonna throw it into 60 frames per second and try to do a little handheld, you know, push in, a little more cinematic stuff. Oh, that minimum focus is sick. Okay, so far the two things I'm most hyped on are one, the depth of field with the bigger sensor, and two, that 4X zoom, at least on the phone screen, looks pretty good. And 4X gets you a long way. Like, I'm up here on this bluff and it's an expansive, you know, view, and I'm able to kind of pinpoint, you know, a group of surfers down in the water. And that's really cool, because on a phone, you're always limited to like how close you can get to stuff. And that 4X so far, I'm really liking it. All right, this is on the 1X lens. Let's go to the 0.7, the wide lens. Cool. There's the 2X. And then here's 4X. Oh, that weird jolt, huh? Okay, so again, here's 0.7, 1, 2, 4. Okay, so quick test of colors. Here you have a lot of browns, a lot of blue. Pointed this way, you have more reds, also blue, also some browns. Here you have a little more green in the frame. Alright everyone, so overall I think the new video features on the Pixel 6 and 6 Pro are a big improvement from previous devices. Yes, I still wish you had 24 frames per second in the native app. That to me is a must-have, but everything else that comes with this device I'm a big fan of. I would say when you're looking at your video on the Pixel with that Pixel screen, it's gonna look way more saturated than it does on your computer. So when I was filming, I was kind of thinking, oh, this looks a little too punchy, but now looking back at the footage on my computer as I edit, it looks way nicer. So overall, I'm pleased with the colors. I think it's an accurate rendition, and I think it gives it that little bit of pop that people like on phones. The quality of the 1X is really high. I like the colors, I like the dynamic range, and I think overall it's the most pleasing image. I think the 4X also looks pretty sharp for such a zoomed in lens, and also it's a 4X zoom. Like, it's probably, in my opinion, one of the highest quality zoom lenses I've seen on a smartphone. And I know there's a bunch of Android devices that have a bunch of other zoom features, but in my mind, 4X is something that I would use in a film or in everyday shooting. The 0.7 and 2X leave a little to be longed for. I still think it's a little soft and doesn't perform as well in less ideal light, but overall, those lenses are still usable too. I just think the 1X and 4X to me are the best. But yeah, that about wraps it up. So thank you for watching. Appreciate you guys taking the time to watch through this entire video. Hit that subscribe button, like the video, do all those things, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace, y'all. I'm gonna finish the edit.